So where did you come up with this idea? And exactly, tell me exactly, like, where were you when you had this epiphany?
Yeah. So I was in a relationship with a woman. We were living together, and it was tumultuous. I mean, we'd break up, get back together, break up, get back together. And I was out of the country, and I came back, and she had moved out, left a note, the whole thing. And so
Oh
there
my
was,
goodness, that must have been so traumatic.
well, I mean, is
But that's the way it was.
that's yeah, I mean, that's what happened. So needless to say, there was an impending conversation that was going to be had. I mean, there was going to be a conversation, and prior to this moment, I had sort of had a game plan. Whenever I had these type of conversations, I was going to try and do this. I was going to try and do that. It was all about strategy. It was all about achieving my own objective, and it was really not fair to her, and I definitely can see that now. But so anyways, I made the decision going into the conversation that, you know what, I'm just gonna, whatever happens, happens. I'm just gonna listen. And it was a very radical idea for me. I mean, it hit me like, wow, what if I just listened? I mean, it sounds so funny thinking of it now, but at the time it was very like, at first I was like, no, that's crazy, but I went into it and I just listened, and we talked on the phone for about 45 minutes. And so she had an incident happen to her the day prior to me coming back. The incident had absolutely nothing to do with me. I wasn't even in the country. It was completely independent of me. But it caused her to get very upset, and in being upset, it caused her to recoil from me and leave and the whole bit. So I listened to her, and just really, I turned off everything. I was not distracted. I really gave the attention, and I kept having to remind myself, listen, don't try and steer things. Just really just listen. And the point of it is at the end of the conversation, I could actually hear that her experience of what she went through changed. And it's important to get the distinction that it wasn't like she just felt better. That was not the case at all. It wasn't like, oh, I just feel better after me listening. That wasn't the case. She actually experienced what she went through differently. And I mean, the facts on the ground didn't change. I mean, what happened to her the day prior was still what happened to her. But her experience had completely shifted. And I hung up the phone, and I completed the call. I acknowledged what she had said, and made sure that she knew that I was listening, and that. And then when the phone call was over, I hung up the phone, and I couldn't move. And I remember the light was kind of, it was a dim light in the room, and I was just so shocked at the power that I had seen from listening. And my mind went from, wow, like, look how amazing listening is. Look how amazing it is. And then I thought, wow, I'm just like, I'm not a very good listener. And it really hit me how how horrible of a listener I had been. I mean, not intentionally, but I hadn't had this, perspective. So I thought, wow, I would like to be the world's best listener, right? I mean, yeah, a lot of ego there. I know. But I mean, to be honest, that was my thought. Wow, I want to be the world's best listener. Imagine what I could do for people and the difference I could make, and this. And so I thought, wow, how do I become the world's best listener? What do I do? And I thought, well, I should probably listen, right? I mean, that makes sense. I should listen. So I thought, well, who am I going to listen to? And then I realized that I live in Chicago in the Gold Coast with 5 million people around me. I could listen to them. So it sort of morphed a few times, and the whole idea was that I would be out in the streets interacting with the public, listening on the streets. So a free listening sign, just 2 words, free listening. That's it. Me and a sign.
Wow, that's really wild. It's very, very radical. So, Now, you said that you acknowledged her as she was speaking to you on the phone. Now, do you do that when people are talking to you? So,
Yeah.
and how do you do that?
Right. There's a couple techniques, but obviously, well, recreating is the big one. So, you recreate and say, wow, I can really understand that your family is very important to you. And something that this is good. Yeah. I hadn't thought of it this way, but in your recreation, it's important to make sure that you're recreating them, not you giving your own interpretation of what they said. And the difference might be, let's say someone shares about how they're concerned about their family. One way would be to say, wow, yeah, well, let me think here for a second. So you could say something like, yeah, you're clearly your family is very important to you. That's something where you're recreating what they said. Another way would be to say, yeah, I one time, had someone I really care, and just totally make it about you and your own interpretation of what they said. So it's important when you recreate to recreate what they said in your words, but making sure that you're using them as the source and not you as the source. So, but basically recreating what they say, it's very important. Yeah.
Nice. Yeah, that's good. So you do respond.
Yeah, I mean...
And you look at them, look them in the eye.
Yes.
Okay.
Very important. And...
eye contact.
Yeah, eye contact, look them in the eye and, shaking your head, nodding, that kind of thing. And, it's a delicate balance because you don't want to put in too much that you're steering the conversation, but at the same time, you can't sit there like a brick wall and not say anything.
Right, yeah. If you just stand there, then you're like being a mime or one
right.
of those statue people.
It's a balance. It's a balance.
Which I've also seen you do too. You do statue people quite nicely.
Yes, I do.
Mike, you've come out to the Bucktown Arts Fest and performed out there and stood with your doing paintings, famous paintings.
Yep.
And you just what is the background of Mike Land artistically? I mean, where are you coming from? Do you have your degree in theater?
No, I have a degree in economics and entrepreneurial business from DePaul University. Artistically, I would love to be able to paint, but my hand doesn't seem to do what my mind envisions. So, my art stuff has been different.
It's performance art.
Yeah, performance art. I mean, I don't...
And then it's funny, you're performance artist economist?
Well, my degree is in economics.
Yeah. I didn't know that about you.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there's...
Yeah, so you're not a shallow river, you're a deep ocean.
Yeah. I mean, I went through massage therapy school in like 05.
Whoa.
Yeah. And I'd been a casino dealer, so I was... Anyone who's been a casino dealer knows that it's a tough job on your morale. It's a tough job. So I was very much in a cynical place, and I sort of just wrote off any notion of metaphysical things, so going through massage school was huge, and it really caused me to open up who I was. But you can call art whatever you want. I don't know if everyone would call free listening art, and they can call it whatever they want. I just call it listening.
Okay. All right. Listening. So if you really want to unburden yourself, you can check out Mike Land, who will be performing his free listening service.
Yeah. Yes, it's
in front
definitely
of,
a service.
Water Tower Place. You were saying you're starting up 5 days a week, Monday through Friday.
Yeah, I don't have... I'm thinking probably in the morning time, but like I said, you can... at free listening is my Twitter tag. So
So if we go to at free listening, then we'll be able to check out what you're up to.
Right. I will tell you when, where, everything.
That sounds really nice, really amazing. Well, thank you so much for joining us here and filling us in on the Free Listening Project. It's really been nice to know more about it and to listen
Yeah.
about listening. Listening is actually a very important skill. I'm studying to be a teacher, and it's actually a skill that we're teaching students how to listen and how
Sure.
to, and, you can tell that they're listening because they incorporate what you're teaching them
Right.
into what they're doing in the classroom, ideally,
And I've actually
or in
found that
life.
Sure. I've actually found that kids are better listeners than adults because they have less of the self. They have less of everything in the way. And also, anyone who wants any more information, I have freelisteningproject.com. Got the website, got pictures up there, everything. So
That sounds great. Sounds like a wonderful thing to do over the holidays, too, when people are so stressed. And there's the Occupy movement. There's a lot going on in the world. So it's nice to know that there's a safe place to be listened to. Thank you so much, Mike.
thanks for listening.